Good evening, everyone, and welcome to AstroNights, and happy holidays to everyone out there. My name is Mary McDonald. I am the Planetarium Manager at the Kristen McAuliffe Center for Integrated Science Learning at Framingham State University, and I am joined tonight by Dr. Irene Porro, the Director of the McAuliffe Center. So you are all here for AstroNights Live, and this is a very special presentation for this monthly program. This is a virtual version of the program we've been doing every December at the planetarium for several years now, Holiday Skies. Thank you all so much for joining us. We do recommend that you go into full screen mode for the best experience. These graphics may be out of date. It may be a different button to go into full screen mode. So figure out how you need to do that to get the best view. Those of you that are joining us on Zoom, welcome everyone. You are welcome to use the Q&A function if you have any questions. And I will be taking questions at the end of the program. This might be a little bit longer than a typical AstroNights, so I'm not going to be stopping for questions. If you want to ask questions, if one comes up right away in your head, you can go ahead and ask it, but I'll take a look at them at the end. So you can also feel free to wait until the end to enter your questions. We are going to have some resources related to tonight's program on our event page. We already have some now that you may have checked out, but we are going to be adding some more later. So we do invite you to check that out. All of the resources related to tonight's program can be found at cmcenter.org/dome-to-home. And Irene has just put in the chat the specific event page for this event. But at the Dome to Home page, you can see the other events, past and present. You can see what's coming up and event pages from past events. We also just invite you to check out our website in general, cm-center.org, where you're going to find all of the most useful and timely information right on the front page. We especially really want you to check out our virtual programs page. So we've been doing virtual programs for a couple of months now, and just starting last month, we've started doing them in a little bit of a different way, where instead of presenting them to a particular group, we allow people to sign up as individuals and participate in our programs as an individual or with their family. So we have an opportunity to do that for one of our virtual missions and also for one of our astronomy programs. And for the first time ever, we're actually offering these during the winter break. So that's the week after next, believe it or not. And you can find all of that at cmcenter.org/CMC online. So Irene just put that in the chat for you. And that's those two programs are gonna be right up at the top if you're interested in registering your child for them. These are two programs that are aimed at school-age children of different ages. Oh, someone has mentioned that nothing is in the chat. Oh, that's going to all panelists. All right, we'll get that stuff in the chat for you in just a moment. But thank you so much, everyone, for listening. All those websites are coming up in the chat, but I'm gonna make sure to just mention that again at the very end of the program as well. So once again, just to say that one more time, our online virtual programs, CMC Online, we're going to be offering programs that you can sign up your children for as individuals during the winter break. And you can find that on our website. Okay, so let's get to tonight's program. Tonight's program is called Holiday Skies, and it is about the idea of celebrating the sky at this time of year. And there is a lot of reasons to do that. And there's a lot of reasons that people have been doing it across the world and for thousands of years. So let's take a look at our current night sky. Actually, this is the night sky a few hours ago. You might have noticed that it is already quite dark out there. All right. Let's see, I'm gonna do a little bit of a different one. Okay, so you should all be seeing the night sky as it appeared earlier tonight at around 4:30. And you can already see at this time what appear to be some lovely stars in the night sky. But in particular, many of you may have been hearing in the news about some of the planets. And you can see two of those planets in the sky right now. And the thing you may have been hearing in the news is that the planets Jupiter and Saturn are very close together in the sky. So just before I point them out, see if you can locate two bright objects that appear really close together. And I'm going to go ahead and label them now. So here is Jupiter, the brighter one, and then the other one is Saturn. And I'd say that this actually looks, my apologies, everyone. This is interesting. This is not tonight's sky. I was about to say, this is actually pretty accurate of how they looked in the real sky, but that's because this is December 12th, so my apologies. So what's been going on is that the two planets are approaching a position known as conjunction when they appear closest together as they ever will for the next many, many years. So this was as they appeared on December 12th. And I'm going to go forward in time by one day at a time. And you're going to see that the two planets started to appear closer and closer together in the sky. And let me just label one of them again, just for your benefit. Okay, so now we're getting close to today. And here's how they appeared at around 4 o'clock today. And this is actually a little bit less accurate to how they really appeared. For those of you that just stepped outside a few hours ago and checked them out, they did appear a little bit farther together than you see on your screen here. But I want you to remember that's because the real sky is larger than your screen. So keep that in mind when you're looking for things in the real sky. All right, so let's let a little bit of time pass so we get a little bit of a nice review of those. And as you may have heard in the news, they are going to continue to get closer together until December 21st. So let's take a look at that now. Let's go a little bit further forward in time to the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st, when they will almost certainly appear as very close to appearing as one single object in the sky. And this is when it's going to be a really good time to take a look at these two objects with binoculars to see if you can still see them as two separate objects. All right, now, another thing that's important about the 21st is that is a very special day of the year. That is the day of the winter solstice. And that's really what our program is all about today. So we're going to talk a little bit about the winter solstice, but we're going to come back to looking at the night sky later. In the meantime, for this part of the program, I am going to turn off the chat just because I have heard from some of my participants in the past that some people find it a little bit distracting during the program. I will turn the chat on again later. And as I said, I might not be able to stop for questions until the end, but feel free to go ahead and put questions in the Q&A. And either Irene will answer them as we go along, or I'll take a look at questions at the end. All right, so on to the solstice. The solstice is a very special day of the year. It's often called the shortest day of the year, or alternatively, the longest night. Now, of course, the day is still 24 hours long, but it is the day where we have the fewest hours of daylight of any day of the year. And if you're someone who really loves to observe the sky, that's good news for you because you get more time to do that. So let's take a moment and celebrate this time of year for that reason. But there's also a lot of other reasons that this day has been celebrated. So we're going to move away from our world or from our location, and we're going to visit somewhere else on Earth. So stay with me for just a moment. Here's our night sky. Ended up having a little bit of snow today. But now we're gonna leave this part of the world behind, and we're gonna go to somewhere else that is going to be a little bit of a better location for us to better understand the solstice. So as we fly away from this location, you may figure out where we are before we get there, but I think everyone's gonna know eventually. Taking the short route. All right, so where have we landed? Now, I really hope that you're all gathered together with your family watching this program together. And I may ask a few questions like that here and there. And I really hope that you're talking to each other about these things. And I hope that some of you have recognized this location and figured out where we are. We are at Stonehenge. This structure in England is over 4,000 years old, and the people who built it left no written records. So we don't really know what the purpose of Stonehenge was. But many people believe that it is a place where people gathered to celebrate the solstices. Now, if we have any longtime AstroNights viewers in the audience, you may remember that we already discussed this at the summer solstice this summer. So this is what Stonehenge is really known for. This is Stonehenge at the summer solstice. And you're seeing the reason why many archaeologists believe this was a ceremonial gathering place for the summer solstice. There's this stone that's outside of the circle, I'm pointing to it here, known as the heel stone. And on the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the heel stone. And only on that day does it happen. So it may have been a gigantic ancient calendar that allowed people to know exactly when the solstice had occurred. So let's take a look at, we're gonna turn towards the south, but everybody remember where that sun was, because we're gonna watch the day pass by on the summer solstice. So the sun rises at the heel stone and then makes its way across the sky. I've put a little trail on the sun so that we can easily remember its path. And as you're talking to each other, I'd like you to really talk about what you notice with the sun's path. What do you notice about the sun's path? Also notice things like the time. So the date and time. So see, this is the summer solstice in June, and the sun's just set at 8:49. All right, now we're going to jump forward in time 3 months forward, and that's going to take us to another special day of the year known as the Fall Equinox. And as you can see from the date, the Fall Equinox is around September 20th, and it's sunrise. Let's now watch the sun move across the sky on this day. And I'd really like you to talk to each other about what is similar and what is different about the sun on this day compared to the summer solstice. Okay, so that was the fall equinox. Now we're going to jump 3 months forward again, and that's going to take us to the time period we're at now, the winter solstice. And so this is actually going to take us slightly into the future, December 21st, 2020, and it is sunrise. As you can see, it kind of takes a while for that sun to come up, and you've all probably been noticing that it's been a little bit tough to get up in the mornings these days. So now let's watch the sun's path on the day of the winter solstice here at Stonehenge. I hope you all noticed some differences in the path of the sun on this day. So I will tell you that there is additional archaeological evidence that Stonehenge may have been used for winter solstice celebrations, not only summer solstice. There's not as much of a sun alignment, but there's evidence definitely of people gathering at this time. Now you might be wondering, why do people celebrate the winter solstice? It's at a time of year that is pretty dark. And so I hope you've noticed that the sun's path across the sky was much shorter. It spent less time in the sky, so that's why we have fewer daylight hours. And also the sun reaches a less high altitude in the sky. So all of these things combined make the solstice a day that is dark and cold. So why would we celebrate it? Well, we're going to find out. So before we do that, I want everybody to make a prediction. We're going to jump forward in time again, 3 months forward. So we're at the winter solstice now. 3 months forward will take us to March. I want you to guess what you think the sun's path is going to look like in March. Ready? Let's take a look. All right, March. Wow. I hope some of you made that prediction, that it was going to follow the path similar to what it did in September. And that means that the sun is getting higher up in the sky again. That means the days are getting longer again. And that's really why we celebrate the solstice. We don't celebrate it because it's the shortest day of the year. We celebrate it because it's a turning point. It's the day that means after this point, the days are going to start getting longer. We're going to start having more sunlight in our days. And this was so important in ancient times when the sun really was the difference between life and death. And I think it's still very much important to us now. So think about this as you embark on whatever holidays you celebrate. You might notice that many of the holidays this time of year involve lights, putting out lights at night, candles, fires, things like that. They're all just ways to not only bring some light back, but also celebrate the fact that the light of the sun is coming back as well. All right, so I know you may have some questions about the science of the solstice. And as I said, we will take those maybe at the end. But what we're going to do now is we're going to head back home and we're going to take a look at that night sky again. Because the really cool thing is that it turns out the sky itself appears to also be celebrating the holidays with a lovely light show. This time of year is a great time to look at the stars, because not only do we have some of the brightest stars that are going to be visible all year, we also, at least in this part of the world, in the Northeast, we have really clear skies in winter. So I'm just going to remind you one more time about the planets that were visible earlier today, Jupiter and Saturn. You are pretty much out of luck for tonight. They've already set below the horizon, but you can check them out tomorrow and then the next day as we get to that conjunction. Let's let some time pass by. And as we do that, I'm going to turn us towards the east, because we want to see what's coming up later in the sky. And when you want to see something rising up, just like the sun, you want to look towards the east. And just above the horizon, coming up in the east, some of you may have noticed the very famous constellation Orion has just come up. And that's what I was looking for. We're going to talk about some of these constellations and their bright stars. But let's wait a little bit longer. We're going to go to approximately, let's go to about 8:15. All right, and oh no, that's a little too far east. We want to focus here. Now, in your neighborhood, there may be a little bit of a debate among the neighbors between whether your holiday display should have all white lights or colored lights. And if you look at the night sky, you might think that the sky is all white lights. All the stars appear white on first glance. But I would like you to look at your screen and look at the stars and see if you can see any stars that appear a different color other than white. So see if any of them appear a different color to you. And yet there may be some differences in all of our eyes and also in our computer screens. But in the real sky, I can promise you, you will see some various different colors. Here's one star that may be jumping out at you. It appears kind of like an orangish color, orangey red. This is a star called Betelgeuse, and this is part of the constellation Orion, which I mentioned earlier. You can easily spot Orion by looking for the 3 stars in a straight line that make up Orion's belt. And the stars of the belt are really good to look at as stars to compare to Betelgeuse in color. So these 3 stars appear to have a bit of a bluish color, especially again in the real sky. Also in Orion, we have this star Rigel over here, a very bright star. And it probably appears mostly whitish to you. So Orion is part of a region of the sky that we sometimes call the Winter Hexagon. It's a region of some really bright stars, and it's pretty much right here. We're going to start here with Rigel, and then moving along the hexagon, the next constellation we come to, look out for this little V shape here. That is Taurus. And Taurus has another one of those reddish orange stars, this one here called Aldebaran. And then, oh, we have to look a little bit higher up in the sky to see the next star. So you got to kind of tilt your head up and look up high. There we go. Okay, so moving along, the next constellation, this one right here that looks like a little house, at least in my opinion. This is Auriga. And Auriga has one really bright star called Capella. This is one of my favorite stars because in the real sky, again, you might not be able to see it here, but in the real sky, this one has a very distinct yellow color. And I like that because our sun is also a yellow star. So this one reminds me of the sun. Okay, moving along, we next have the stars Castor and Pollux, which are the names of the 2 mythological twins of Gemini. And then finally, we have 2 more bright stars making up the last 2 stars of the winter hexagon. These are Procyon, which I will locate. And last but certainly not least is Sirius, the #1 brightest star in the whole sky. And these two are part of the rather sad constellations, Canis Major and Canis Minor. They just don't have a lot of stars in them. So look out in the sky for the bright, bright stars of the winter hexagon. And let's draw that hexagon. Nice. And see how many different colors you can see in these stars. All right. So we're going to move on to a different part of the sky. Maybe some of these constellation patterns were new to some of you. I hope so. I hope I've given you a little something new to look out for. But there is one pattern of stars that a lot of people know really well. It's called the Big Dipper. And if you're looking for it right now, you're not going to find it, because to find that one, we have to look over towards the north. So we're turning north just a bit. All right, and if you think you know what the Big Dipper looks like, see if you can find it in the sky now. It is visible, but it's a little bit tricky. If you think you may have spotted it down near the horizon, you are correct. There it is. And it's a little bit, it's actually not fully up from the horizon yet. So this is the Big Dipper, a very well-known pattern of stars. One thing that makes it different from the other constellations that we just looked at, I called the winter hexagon. It's the winter hexagon because they're only visible in winter. The Big Dipper here is visible all year long. And that's one of the reasons so many people know it very well. Another reason that it is so well known is because the Big Dipper can help point you towards the North Star. So ready? We're all going to learn how to do that. The Big Dipper has the handle, and then it has the scoop. We want to take the last two stars in the scoop, follow them in a straight line. And the very first star you come across here is the North Star, also known as Polaris. So once again, the pointer stars point towards Polaris. So the North Star, everyone's heard of it, I think, but in order to really understand what it means, we have to let some time pass by. So once again, everyone, the time right now is tonight at around 8:20. Let's let some time pass and see how the sky changes. Well, just like we saw with the sun, you should notice that the stars appear to move in a pattern across the sky from east towards west. But if you keep your eye on Polaris, it does not appear to be moving. It appears to stay right where it is, right here in the north. All right, so why does it do this? Well, we're going to find out. Just like a lot of times in life, in order to solve this mystery, we have to look at it from a different angle. And in this case, we have to look at it from space. So from space, we would be able to see that it's not the stars that are moving at all. None of these stars are moving. It's the Earth that's moving. We know the Earth spins on its axis. And if you ever look at a globe, you know, globes are usually tilted. And that's because the axis of the Earth is tilted. And it happens to be tilted towards this star, Polaris. Not really towards that star. It's just tilted to a place in space. And there's a star near there. By accident, really. Now, of course, here on the Earth, we don't feel this movement. And I guess you could say we don't see it either. But that's kind of a strange thing to say, but it's definitely true that we don't feel it. So based on what we feel, what we think we're seeing is, oh, and I forgot to mention. So, okay, so this is the real situation. And we see that the stars are not moving. They have fixed positions. And these positions we can assign a sort of a value to. And this is what astronomers do. They have a coordinate system for the stars, and each star has its position in this coordinate system. It's called celestial coordinates. But as I was saying, you know, on Earth, we don't feel this motion. We believe, you know, based on our senses, that it's the Earth that's staying still and this entire system that is rotating around us. But both situations, if you think about it, would look the same from Earth. So you see that all of these stars have their fixed positions, including Polaris up here. But here, to us, it appears that the stars are moving around the North Star Polaris. And look, there's the sun. So the sun also has a position in this system, but it is not a fixed position. So this line here, which is the ecliptic, shows you the position of the sun at different times of the year. And you might notice that right now in December, the sun appears very, very far south compared to our location here in Boston. So that's why the sun appears very low in our sky. But later in the year, as we get towards the summer solstice, the sun's position in our sky is much, much higher because of its position in celestial coordinates. So see, there's June. Now I'm going to stop there because this whole dynamic diagram that you're seeing, there's a lot of information here and maybe a little bit too much science for a Friday night. But I want you to think about what you've learned from looking at this visualization. And I want you to think about what you think the sky might look like if you were right here at the North Pole. What would the sky look like from the North Pole? And of course, here in the planetarium, virtually, we don't have to just imagine. We can find out. We're going to the North Pole. All right, we've made it. Now, I don't know what you thought you might find here in the North Pole, but in reality, there's not much there. We have just found ourselves at some sort of Arctic research station, but we're here to look at the sky. So think about your predictions, what you thought you were going to see in the sky. For example, let's start with Polaris. Where did we think Polaris might be if you were at the North Pole? Did anyone guess that they thought it might be directly overhead? Well, you are correct. There it is. So in the North Pole, you will see the North Star Polaris directly overhead. And you will see the stars appear to move around it in circles. Now think about how we saw some of the constellations like Orion come up above the eastern horizon. That's not going to happen here. First of all, because there is no eastern horizon. If you're at the North Pole, there's nothing but south. But also, if you look at the paths of the stars, they don't appear to be heading towards any horizon. They move in circular paths around and around and around. And guess what? We could sit here all day waiting, and there's one thing we wouldn't see, and that's the sun. Because the position of the sun right now is so far south that it is not going to come up at all. It's not visible from the North Pole. So this time of year in the Arctic, they have no sun whatsoever. And it's not just on the solstice, it's for several months. So that must be pretty difficult to adjust to. But there are some benefits to living in the Arctic. For example, sometimes you get to see other things. So we're supposed to be seeing the Northern Lights right now, but just like in real life, sometimes you see them, sometimes you don't. And that's just how it goes. So I know many people who have traveled to the Arctic and really, really hoped to see the Northern Lights, but unfortunately didn't get a chance to see them. The interesting thing about the Northern Lights is that even though there is no sun visible here, the Northern Lights, also known as aurora, are actually caused by the sun. They're caused by high energy particles coming from the sun that interact with Earth's atmosphere to create a very beautiful light show. And it's just not happening for us today. So we'll have to wait till next year. So we've, seen a lot of interesting things happen here at the North Pole. But I'm sure that some of you have been looking out for one. All right, so let's turn it over to questions. I'm going to turn my video back on. And if you have been waiting to enter a question, it's a good idea to go ahead and enter your questions now. All right. All right. Question from Jessica. What time of night is best to look for the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn? Great question, very important question, because if you don't look at the right time, you're going to miss them. You might have noticed that that Jupiter and Saturn appeared pretty early in the evening. So you'll want to go pretty much right after sunset. So let's bring that up again. Okay, so this is the 12th again, because I keep getting to that date. This is tonight. And there's Jupiter and Saturn looking very lovely tonight. And the time is 4:30, yeah. So pretty much by 5:30, they will likely have disappeared below your horizon. They might still technically be out, but if you have other, things blocking your horizon, you might not be able to see them. So yeah, I would say probably before 5:30, but definitely as soon as the sun's down, I would have a look. And remember that the two planets are going to get closer together until the 21st. And then they're going to start getting farther apart, which is also fun to watch. It's just a really fun, I think, family observing activity you can do is to just go look at these two planets each night and see them get closer and closer together and then farther apart. I saw something on Twitter in the last couple of days. It like NASA was doing something. They were holding these Ask the Expert about the conjunction, like how to view the conjunction, ask an expert. You do not need to be an expert to do this. You just need to look. So it's very, very easy, but knowing the right time is crucial. So great question, Jessica. Between 4:30 and 5:30, I would say is the best. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Adam asks, are there always shooting stars? That's a great question. And a lot of people might ask that because sometimes you might go outside and you're trying to look for Jupiter or something, and you notice a shooting star. And then you think to yourself, wow, that's crazy that I saw that. But it's really just because at that moment you were looking at the sky and you were spending a lot of time looking at the sky. So if you did that all the time, you actually might see quote unquote shooting stars or meteors, not all the time, but once in a while. Now, obviously, there are some times where there are more meteors than others. So seeing one single meteor can happen anytime. But to see a whole bunch of meteors, in other words, a meteor shower, only happens at certain times. And some of you may have heard that there was a meteor shower peak on like Monday night of this week, the Geminid meteor shower. I didn't see any this year, but meteor showers are not happening all the time. They only happen at specific times of the year. But meteors alone can happen anytime because meteors are really just little pieces of space debris, dust, dirt that get burnt up in Earth's atmosphere and produce this beautiful streaming tail as they do that. So yes, that can happen anytime. Okay, let's see. Question, let's see. Just trying to see which are the best ones. Okay, I have a question from Anne. Do you recommend any apps to help us locate the stars in the sky? I can do that because someone told me some that they use. I have to admit that I do not use them myself. I'd like to think that I enjoy the challenge of trying to figure out what I'm looking at myself. But I'm going to tell you the two apps that someone recommended to me recently. Night Sky and Star Chart. Yeah, so I heard those at a conference recently from a real astronomy professor. Maybe I'll enable the chat again. Okay, so I'm just putting those in the chat. Night Sky and Star Chart. One of those, I believe, is free, and one of them costs $1 or something. So I have that answer for you. All right, let's see. I have a question from Tara. Why do satellites have lights? That's an interesting question. Again, something that may have come up based on your own observing of the night sky. Satellites generally don't have lights. So first thing is that, you know, obviously airplanes and aircraft do have lights for their own safety and, you know, so that they can be seen because they need to be seen. So those are, you know, aircraft that are in the atmosphere. anything that's above the atmosphere, satellites, are spacecraft. And as far as I know, they generally don't have lights, but what they do have is reflective surfaces. So their surfaces reflect the sun. And even if the sun has set, the angle of the sun might be hit it from, from somewhere else in space, maybe hitting the satellite, and that's how we're able to see them. And this is a little bit of an issue, that if there's a lot of satellites, there's a lot of these little reflecting lights, little moving lights in the sky, that's can be a problem for a lot of reasons. But on the other hand, satellites do have to be reflective because we have to be able to track them from Earth. So I hope that answered that question. Okay, let's see. Tom asks, what time of day do Jupiter and Saturn rise in the east? Okay, so interesting. Let me read that again. What time of day do Jupiter and Saturn rise in the east? So if they're setting around sunset, then that should tell us that they're probably rising around sunrise. And luckily for us, here in the planetarium, we can go ahead and answer that. But that's kind of how you want to think about the cycles of the day. If they're setting shortly after sunset, they probably came up shortly after sunrise. And let's see if that hypothesis is correct. So we're running time backwards. And let's see, this is 9 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, so they're not up yet at 9 o'clock. So a little bit later, probably around 9:30 is when they're gonna come up. Okay, yeah, so they come up 9:45. Which means that the sun is well up in the sky, so you will not be able to see those planets in the morning. You have to wait until the sun has set. So they're going to be basically following the sun all day, but they won't actually be visible until it's gotten nice and dark. Interesting question. I liked that one. Okay. All right, okay, let me continue going with that direction. Sam has a question. In the future, you will be able to see Mars and the other planets. In the future, will you be able to see Mars and the other planets? Well, definitely in the future, but the future may be now. So let's go back to nighttime, and I have to go a little bit faster. Okay, so there's Jupiter and Saturn. And let me put up, where are my lovely directions? Okay, yeah, so there are Jupiter and Saturn. They have just disappeared over in the southwest. But remember, later that night, we turned around to east to look at the stars, but I did not happen to mention that Mars was visible, just because we didn't have time for everything tonight. So Mars is visible. Oh, and it's up really high in the sky. So yeah, so there's Mars. It's visible in the southeast at, around sunset, a little after sunset. So right at sunset, you can see Jupiter and Saturn. And then a little bit later, you can take a look at Mars. Okay. Continuing along. right. Let's see. I have a question from Emily, and I saw some similar questions earlier. Where is this image taken from? And that is a good question. So what you all are seeing is you are seeing an astronomy visualization software. So it's not an actual image. It's a visualization. So it's a simulation. It's not the real sky. But it is set to Framingham, Massachusetts, which is where the Framingham State University Planetarium is located. So that's where I usually always have this sky set to. So this is set to the exact sky for Framingham, Mass, but your sky will look pretty similar if you are anywhere near that. You know, even a few states away. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'll take maybe 2 or 3 more questions. Jessica asks, is there an equivalent of the Northern Lights at the South Pole? There are indeed. Yes, there are the Southern Lights. They are not photographed as often just because there's much fewer inhabited areas in the South Pole. So there are much fewer people there to see them. The Northern Lights are visible throughout the Arctic Circle, where there's a lot of inhabited areas, and even sometimes farther south. So there are sometimes even reports of aurora being visible even as far south as the United States, but I can't say that I've seen them. All right, so let's see. I have one more question that I want to answer from Amanda. Do you recommend any picture books about the mythology behind the constellations? That's a great question, and I probably should have a picture book. There is one really good book that I like. It's called Beyond the Blue Horizon, and that was recommended to me as Beyond the Blue Horizon. Is that not what it's called? Beyond the Horizon Mythology. Yeah, Beyond the Blue Horizon. Myths and Legend of the Sun, Moon, and Stars and Planets. Yeah, this is the book I read when I wanted to know these things. But I don't know that it is a picture book. Yeah, that would be my recommended book. All right. Okay, so I think that we'll do it for questions today. Oh, sorry, I just looked in the chat. The panorama image. Yeah. So the sky, that's a great question. The sky is set to Framingham, but the panorama is not from a location in Framingham. This mountain may look unfamiliar to some of you. It's just a horizon I chose because it had little Christmas tree-like things in it.
Right. Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for the great show. I have to say there were a few people that got confused because they say, well, do we have mountains in Framingham? And so this is not, as far as I can tell, it's not the real image either, right? It's just a simulation produced by the software, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that when I've used it in the past, the trees were more visible than the mountain. But so yeah, it's a great question. Thanks, everyone. All right. So I I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. This has been a lot of fun. And I hope you will join us for future AstroNights. As we mentioned before, please visit our website, cmcenter.org. And in particular, if you want to find out about upcoming AstroNights events, CM Center /dome-to-home/live is where you will find all of the upcoming events, and we'll be updating those very soon for the new year. So thanks everyone. Have a great night and happy holidays.